if Iowa has any chance of winning out, even if they win out, they probably won't make the Big Ten championship game, which is a good thing. I can't believe I'm saying that. It's a good thing. If you're playing for the playoff, I believe it to be a good thing. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Mark, but this is the last thing I said, and then we can move on to bigger and better Iowa things. But would a 10-3 Iowa team make the college football playoff? There's a question. A 10-3 Iowa team that loses in the Big Ten championship game, let's say soundly to Ohio State and Indy.
You just answered my question. Because a loss against one of the best teams in the country, but performing well, could actually be a boost.
Well, but what if they don't perform well? If it's a sound beating and the Iowa ends up 10-3 with home wins against Penn State, Oregon, Minnesota, losses at Iowa State, home against Indiana, and in Indy against Ohio State, I don't think that probably gets them in. I could see a 9-3 SEC team getting in over a 10-3 Iowa team. I could. And I don't like that, but I think the committee would look at not playing as an advantage because they don't have an embarrassing loss. I think that's unfortunate, but I think that could happen.
I was thinking of it in a sense that if Iowa wins all of its games, which of course they need to, but then Oregon falters a little bit like you've talked about, and USC doesn't have a great record, and those wins are close, and they're also a bit diminished by their performances. And then they go to a Big Ten championship game, but they hang with what is likely the number one team in the country, whether that's going to be Indiana or Ohio State, and they play it to the wire and lose. That impresses me, and that
they should be in
my evaluation of them.
I think it would be, and again, we don't know exactly what's going to happen everywhere. I think that'd be a travesty to not put an Iowa team that did that in, given the fact that they would have no bad losses on the schedule. For people that, and you made a comment last week, people that are saying Iowa State's becoming a bad loss, let's just hold off a little bit, okay? I do think it's going to take 4 or even 5 Iowa State losses before I can sit here and say that's a bad loss. Like on the road in September against Iowa State, a close loss, that's not a bad loss unless this Iowa State team falls to 7-5, 6-6 in my book. If they're 8-4 or better.
I don't know that I called it a bad loss. I said it's a loss that's getting worse.
Yeah, well, but other people have said it's turning into a bad loss. So I don't agree with that. Now, Iowa needs them to start winning. I mean, that would help. That will help. Just from a seeding perspective, like even if Iowa won out, which I'm not saying they're going to, their chances of doing that are still well under 50%. But if they were to win out from a seeding perspective, it would likely help Iowa if Iowa State could end up 9-3. And I don't think they probably will because they're struggling.
All you have to do is look at last year's playoff teams. And I'm doing a quick scan, but I cannot find any that lost to even marginal teams.
What's that supposed to mean?
Like playoff teams, and we've only done this one time with a 12-team format. Obviously, in the 4-team format, those teams weren't losing to hardly anybody. But in the 12-team format, you don't see teams losing to 5-7, even 7-5 teams.
No, that's what I just said. I think 8-4 or better, it's not a bad loss. 7-5, 6-6, I could see that argument. Yeah, absolutely. But we'll comb through it. You're telling me the 12 teams that nobody had a loss to an 8-4 team. I would guess that's not true.
Well, I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying it's extremely rare. I can pretty much, you should know from having these discussions with me for 4 or 5 years, that I pretty much know who everybody lost to and how much they lost to them and what their records were last year. But you have to eliminate the conference champions because Iowa's not going to be a conference champion. They have to be selected.
I understand.
Tennessee lost to a 7-6 Arkansas team last year.
There we go.
And they were 10-2.
Yeah, I understand. Well, no, I'm not advocating that Iowa gets in at 9. I'm not advocating for anybody to get in at 9-3. I don't think mathematically there are going to be enough 9. I don't think there's going to be There'll be too many 10-2 teams, I guess. And not that ranking records should mean everything. I think what's interesting is if you had, in some crazy scenario, a 10-2 Big Ten team like a Nebraska. If you had a 10-2 Nebraska, would they get in over a 9-3 Oregon or a 9-3 Michigan? Ooh, now that would be a discussion. I think the committee would have a hard time justifying putting in Nebraska with their weak schedule.
Yes.
Over Michigan with a 9-3 schedule.
Well,
That'd be tough.
Especially since Michigan beat them at Nebraska.
Okay.
And if Michigan plays relatively well against Ohio State, even if they lose the game.
Wow, that makes it even more difficult, doesn't it?
Oh, there are going to be some just fascinating decisions that this committee is going to have to make. Last year was pretty much, are they going to just leap these 9-3 SEC teams past Indiana and SMU? And of course, they did not. But this year, I do not see a scenario in which there aren't very difficult decisions to make, especially between those two conferences. And look at this. Not that we want to turn this into a national discussion, but we'll get back to Iowa here in just a second. Look at this, Corey. This is my dream scenario right here. Not Georgia Tech winning the conference because they're undefeated right now. Let's say Virginia and Georgia Tech win the rest of their games, and then Virginia beats Georgia Tech in the ACC championship game. So they're both 12-1. So Virginia's got the automatic bid. Georgia Tech's going to make it at 12-1. Louisville and Miami could both run the table and finish 11-1. They're not playing difficult schedules. I've looked at these schedules. You could have 4 teams in the ACC at 12-1 and 11-1.
Come on. That conference is I don't believe that conference is very good.
But are you gonna deny 11-1 teams?
Yeah, you might have to. You might have to. I think you just got to look at strength of schedule in all this.
Are you going to deny an 11-1 Miami team that beat Notre Dame and Florida
and lost to
and South Florida by 37 points, who might be in the playoff themselves?
And lost to Louisville?
Yeah, good. Who's going to be 11-1?
I know. That was in Miami, though.
My scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's hope that doesn't happen. If you're a Big Ten fan or a fan of like an Iowa or a Michigan, you don't want that scenario. Because that's just asking the committee to do something stupid.
Yeah,
or something logical, depending on whose side you're on.